Hi, this is Chase from CNC Commentaries, and today on CNC Movie Breakdowns, we are going to be discussing the film Sorry to Bother You. And I am, of course, joined by the one and only Nando.
Hey everybody. So
How's it
Chase,
going?
not bad Chase. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great.
All right.
Anytime I'm talking movies with you,
It's a good
it's
time.
only a happy time. Never any
We
sadness
never get into any
or anger.
arguments. we never.
Um,
All right.
no, I'm excited to talk about this movie today.
Yes, we watched this movie last week, and this movie's a little more underground. That's similar to what you told me. Not a lot of people
Uh,
have seen this movie.
Yeah, it was very underrated or very underseen the year it came out. People that saw it, I think, mostly enjoyed it,
All
but
right.
very underseen.
All right, Chase. Why don't you give us a little synopsis?
All right, Sorry to Bother You was a film from 2018 directed by Boots Riley. It stars Lakeith Stanfield as Cassius Green, um, just a regular guy who is looking for a job, and then one day he gets a job as a telemarketer, and then that opens the doors to some pretty crazy avenues and things he has to go down. Um, do we jump into it?
Yeah, I suppose so. And just
And just an FYI, there will be spoilers.
Yeah, if you have not seen this movie before, which you probably haven't, it was pretty underseen. Both of us recommend that you go and watch it.
Yeah, and then come back, and that way,
That way
everything
we don't.
isn't spoiled for you
Yeah,
because there's some pretty big stuff that happens.
yeah, we don't
Just a
want to.
bit.
We don't want to spoil the twist for you.
Pretty sure this is on Hulu, so if
Yeah.
you have Hulu, check it out.
hmm
And now we get into the film.
All right, Chase.
Um, so tell me, Nando, this was your first time seeing this. What was your overall thoughts, just
You
off the
know,
top?
I really liked this movie because first of all, it's an original concept.
Yeah.
I think it's very hard, almost impossible to make truly original things nowadays.
hmm
And this movie definitely delivers on originality because I never expected the big twist in this movie to be.
And yeah, we'll get into that
Yeah.
later, but I agree with what you're saying in terms of like, we have so many sequels, remakes, reboots, etc.
hmm
today. It's nice to get an original film like this with I never have heard of anything remotely close to this sort of premise.
Yeah.
And when people say, "Oh, there's no original films out there," I say, "Hey, just maybe look a little deeper. Look off the surface of your Marvel or big franchise films, and hey, sometimes you could be in for a treat."
Yeah. I also think this movie does a great job on social commentary.
Oh yeah,
There is
the
definitely a lot of social commentary in this movie.
spewing with social
Yeah.
commentary.
hmm
Like, there's so many things going on in so many different parts,
Right.
and that's why I'm excited to break this down.
hmm
Um,
What about you, Chase? What were your general thoughts when you first viewed this film? And how long ago did you view it?
well, I saw it in 2018 when it came out.
Oh,
Once, uh, I saw it once that year, and this was my third time seeing it overall.
yeah.
But going into it, I didn't know anything about it really. Um, I knew Lakeith Stanfield was in it, who I remembered from Get Out, and I just remembered hearing a lot of good word of mouth from some critics I would listen to. I was just like, sound. I heard it's innovative, like, and that might as well go see it, you know.
Yeah.
And I walked out greatly enjoying it.
Yeah, you can't really have a bad time while watching this movie. It's really like it's a really fun movie to watch.
I mean, I don't know if it's trying to be fun, but it's just how Boots Riley directs it,
Hmm.
and like how he transitions, and so some of the like fantastical elements in it
Yeah.
are the stylistic choices is what I'm trying to get at.
Also, another good thing to point out in this movie, it has a lot of dark comedy,
Hmm.
which the jokes, I'm pretty sure all the jokes landed for me. Uh, I'm a big fan of dark comedy, and it was just, yeah. It was hard to have a bad time while watching this movie because every time the movie got like intense or really kind of dramatic, there was always like a joke thrown in there. It just livens
Yeah,
up the situation.
which is like real life.
Hmm.
Well, right from the opening, we see Cassius trying to get this spot, um, the telemarketer job, and then he's lying about a reference, and he brings in these trophies and yada yada. And I don't know who the guy that played the boss guy was, but um, he's saying like, I don't care about any of this. How you're lying. The point is, you got like drive. You
Yeah,
could do this. And
he's
then
he's like
he gets the
clever.
job. He realizes he's clever, and he's like, "Hey, if you're willing to lie to me for this, you're probably to lie to these people on the phone and weasel your way and try and uh, get them these things."
Hmm. Uh,
Um,
yeah. Also, I'd like to point out the name of our lead character, Cassius Green.
Cash, as he's often referred to,
Yeah,
Cash is green,
yeah. No,
very
this
on the nose.
movie starts off with a pun. I think it's a fun little element.
Well, I mean, that's what leads to his problems is
Yeah, Cash.
his
Yeah,
because he's trying to he's got to pay rent to his uncle, who's
who was
played by
playing Terry
Terry
Crews.
Crews, the great Terry Crews,
I think he,
Sergio.
yeah, I think Terry Crews does a good job in this movie. He has like only a couple lines, but he makes the movie a lot more enjoyable.
I mean, he's Terry Crews.
Yeah, can't have a
There's
bad time with
not
Terry
many
Crews.
times you get Terry Crews in there, and then it's Terry Crews that makes it worse.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
and after he gets this interview, you're introduced to his. After he actually gets the job, you're introduced to his girlfriend,
yes, played by the
Detroit.
amazing Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson plays Detroit in this movie, and
Yes.
I think she is a very good addition to this movie.
Well, Tessa Thompson's just a
She's a really
great
good
actress,
actress.
and so every time I see her in something, it's like she just she brings an element of fun, but also really good performance.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, just she was probably coming off of Thor Ragnarok at this time, and just seen that and enjoyed that, and I was like, you know
Yeah,
what? She's gonna have a bigger career.
she can really switch roles. She
Yeah,
went from
very
playing,
versatile.
yeah, she went from playing this strong Valkyrie to Detroit. It was a very different character. Um,
Um,
let's go into the first scene where he's actually telemarketing.
yes, he's so he's trying to do these calls. He's not being very successful,
Hmm.
and he's like, "Hey, you want to buy these encyclopedias or whatever?" And the old lady's like, my husband is dying. He's got cancer."
Oh yeah, and another thing we have to talk about is the actual like way these calls are shot in the movie.
Yeah,
I think this was a really creative way to do it because once Cash just like connects to the line and him and the old lady are talking, it's shot like kind of his desk
he like
falls in,
flops through.
yeah, kind of like flops through reality, and it's his desk is positioned like in a way that he can actually see the lady, like he's actually in her house.
Yeah, it's a very smart way of shooting that
Yeah,
type of.
and every time he falls from the sky, like his desk gets jostled, and he has to pick up his things. And then
Yeah, because you could have just as easily done like a split screen, but
I think this is a much more innovative and creative way to do it.
yeah, I mean, there's that scene later on where he's talking to the Japanese guy,
Oh yeah.
and he's on the toilet.
And then he has his desk in his bathroom right in front of him. And after those first few scenes, he's not getting like any customers. All the people that he's contacting don't want to buy stuff from him. But
And
then
then
he meets his
all of a sudden, out of nowhere,
yeah.
like an angel, right beside him, Danny Glover,
Danny Glover is right
the
beside
one
him.
and only.
Mm-hmm. And this is our first little bit of social commentary, because Danny Glover's character tells Cassius that if he wants to sell to these people, he has to put on a white voice. And Cassius
I mean,
is a black
yeah.
character.
I mean, even before that, I think we get little hints because we see these foreshadowing done with these work-free commercials on the
Yeah.
TV,
And
and
then we get
as
to
we
see
know,
some of the
that
protests.
comes back in later.
Mm-hmm. So the movie shows us through commercials and through news of protests that there's this company called Worry Free that is basically making people sign contracts to work for Worry Free for life. And
Yeah, and in exchange they get like housing and food and
yeah, but a lot of people are violently protesting because they think Worry Free is like making these people sign slave contracts.
yeah.
And the CEO of Worry Free is played by Armie Hammer.
That is true.
Yeah.
Holy shit, we're two Army Hammer movies back to back.
Two Armie Hammer movies back to back.
I just realized that.
And there's actually three Armie Hammers because he plays two of them.
Well, if you want to get technical there, buddy.
You want to get technical.
Yes, Armie Hammer plays CEO Steve Lift, I think is his name.
Steve Lift.
And
so those elements are definitely foreshadowed. They're sprinkled throughout the movie. And then of course you have Donnie Glover telling Cassius to put
Danny
on...
Glover.
What's his name?
Danny.
Oh, Danny. So you have him telling Cassius to put on like this white voice. And Chase, tell us how the white voice is done in this movie.
How it's done?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's done by David Cross, who, of course, we all know from Alvin and the Chipmunks fame. Yeah. And when he uses his white voice, he gets a lot more successful in his calls, and that starts to get attention from the people that are higher up in the company, and he gets offered a position as a power caller.
Yeah.
But before this, he's very against the whole concept of being a power caller.
Yeah.
He meets a guy named Squeeze, who's also at the telemarketing agency, and they're trying to form a union, and they try and form a whole protest.
Mm-hmm. Of course, Squeeze is trying to organize the workers to, like, protest. He's trying to create, like, a mass protest where he's demanding the company pay them, like, fair wages instead of just commissions.
Yeah. I should say Squeeze is played by Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Does a great job.
Yeah. I think all the acting in this movie is pretty good.
Yeah.
There's no... Cassius Green, he's probably the best out of all of them. But there's no bad actors in this movie. Just because the dialogue also feels very natural.
Yeah.
In this movie. That's one of the things that stuck out to me. Usually like older people try to write dialogue for younger people or a younger audience, it comes off as feeling like manufactured or not realistic. But
I
here,
mean, Boots Riley. I don't know how old he is, but I think he's like a rapper. I think he's pretty hip
yeah.
and up to date with stuff. I'd imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
His
but
writing
it's
feels very
it's it's
natural.
very realistic dialogue, and it's also providing commentary on certain issues as well as the actual action going on.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that we're shown is that when Cassius puts on a white voice, he gets more sales. That's pretty on the nose.
It's more than on the nose. I
Yeah.
mean, like even early on, um, I'm pretty sure there's a line where it says like, "Oh yeah, worry free is working their people like horses."
Oh yeah, and
I,
there's another piece of foreshadowing that I noticed that very early on, even in the interview scene, in the very first scene of the movie, the boss guy he says, "We're not mapping the human genome here."
yeah, yeah.
That's good foreshadowing.
And of course, later on,
When the twist is revealed,
some might be a little up.
would you like to go into the twist now, or do you want to wait a little bit?
I mean, we can always circle back and forth between everything.
Yeah, why don't we get into the twist now, since it's definitely the most unexpected part of this movie.
Well, that's why they call it a twist.
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess cutting forward a bit, eventually Cassius goes to Steve's house.
He becomes a
And
power caller.
yeah, I want to offer you a job. And he's like, he has him snort what we assume is cocaine. What Cassius assumes is cocaine. Once again, this is like the higher up status going to him, kind of like losing his ground on what he used to be, his roots.
Yeah, he's talking to the CEO of Worry Free, that the people are calling like a slave company.
This is yeah. After he left Detroit's art show,
Yeah.
which we'll get into that. But anyways, he snorts this drug. We think it's cocaine, and then later we come to find out it turns him into a fucking horse.
Yeah. It doesn't turn him into a horse immediately. It definitely takes him a little bit of time because after he snorts his cocaine, he tells Steve Lift, "I need to go to the bathroom."
And then of course,
Yeah, and then Steve Lift tells him, "Oh, just go through the olive door." And of course,
he didn't go through the olive
he
door.
did not go through the olive door. He goes through a door that kind of looks olive. I guess over.
Of course, you knew that right off the bat, Mr. Interior Design.
Yeah, when we were watching this movie and he opened this door, I'm like, that's not olive. It was funny.
It's so freaking niche. I don't know why you'd just be like, that's not olive.
I'm like, there's gonna be some bad stuff behind that door, and there was.
Maybe if it was a red door, I'd be a little more. Oh, that's not an olive door, but
Yeah, it's like a different shade of green. I guess Steve Lift just can differentiate his greens very well.
um,
And
but
so
anyways,
he goes through this door and he finds in these stalls there are these kind of half human, half horse hybrids who are
Yeah.
completely nude in the movie, by the way.
and they got big horse cocks.
Yeah. So if you're worried about that, then I'm sorry to say.
Right up, horse cocks.
Yeah, and he finds like these human, half horse hybrids, and then once Steve Lift catches up with him, he's like, "I told you to go through the olive door," and then Cassius Green is like freaking out, and then Steve shows him a little movie explaining that he wants to make half human, half horse people to make the labor force better.
And I think it's very interesting because before we see Cassius turn into the horse person, I forget what are they called, Equisapiens.
Yeah, Equisapiens.
Yeah. We get this interesting scene where he's walking, and he gets like a car pulls up to him, and they make fun of him because he's just become like
It becomes a meme.
viral
Yeah,
for getting hit in the head with a can.
a Coke can. Basically becomes a meme.
Yeah. And they make fun of him. They pour a drink on him, and then they drive off. And then he's able to like run and like pretty close to the speed of the car, and then he just trips
Yeah.
and basically eats shit.
And
Not literally, but
an interesting thing about this scene is that, you know, when I was first watching through this movie, and you know the way the movie is like, you don't know, because to turn people into horse people, Steve Lift has to like give them this kind of powder to snort, and that kind of turns them into horse people. And so, of course, that brings up the question: did Cassius snort the horse powder or cocaine? And
that's not a sentence you say every day.
and so you know, throughout the movie you're kind of wondering, and of course I thought he didn't snort the coke, he didn't snort the horse powder, because I thought it would be more immediate. But once we finished the movie, we actually went back and looked at this scene, and it turns out you can actually, when he's running towards the car, you can actually hear his feet whenever they hit the ground, like clip clop, like a horse is running.
Very subtle detail that just adds another layer to.
Yeah, that's how you can
like,
tell that the people who made this movie like wanted.
You could
detail.
tell he definitely put a lot of detail in.
Yeah, there's these subtle little details that add up and add like another layer to the movie.
Yeah, and I love like when it transitions from like certain scenes, and then you just get like the blaring like hip hop sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something about that, like the beeps and the bops. Like it also feels like, you know, like you'd be in a telemarketer place.
Yeah, the ambience there is pretty good.
Yeah. Should we circle back to like how he becomes a power caller?
Yeah. So after using his white voice, and you get more scenes of him like warping into reality into these people's homes over the phone, and he basically gets a lot better at selling things to people with this like white voice. And cut throughout his days of work are him and his girlfriend hanging out, him in Detroit. And you learn that Detroit is going to open up an art show, right? Or an art gallery.
Yeah, she's gonna put on like an art show, art performance.
Mm-hmm. And of course, also you learn throughout that Detroit has been sneaking out and going with this organization to protest Worry Free.
Yeah, well, it's because Cash was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And then while they're protesting outside the office, he gets moved into the building. Since he's a power caller, they escort him in.
Yeah. So once he gets promoted,
so it's kind of like Cassius is just forgetting about his friends and his past beliefs and values, because he's got this money and this job now.
Yeah. So once he gets promoted to be a power caller, you know, he's liking all the money. He buys a nice car. He helps Terry Crews pay off his house. That's an interesting sentence. He helps his uncle, Terry Crews, pay off his house. And, you know, he's making all this money. And what he's actually doing as a power caller is he's actually selling slave labor to companies like Worry Free. He's making these millions of dollars of sales. And all the while, Squeeze's and Detroit's, like, union is growing. And they're protesting. And you get these scenes.
It just keeps getting bigger and bigger and getting more coverage.
Mm-hmm. And eventually, you get to that scene where, eventually, like almost like a SWAT team has to escort the power callers through this massive protest.
Yeah.
Every single morning, and of course, that's where the clip comes in where this woman throws a Coke can at Cassius's head, and he has to go to the hospital to get that fixed.
And, I mean, not to get too into this kind of stuff, but to say some of those protest scenes were as accurate then as they are now.
Yeah,
Also, is a little not foreboding is the right word, but makes you think.
yeah, I guess. But yeah, after that, he starts to lose his friends and his girlfriend like Squeeze and Detroit because he wants to keep making money as a power caller, but he's kind of losing sight of who he was.
Yeah, and another like detail we get on how he's losing sight of what he used to be is he'll just be in normal conversation with Detroit
Mm-hmm.
and then just start randomly speaking in the white voice.
Yeah, and
He'll be
eventually,
like, hey, not right now, cut it out. That stuff's weird.
yeah, I think you're referring to that scene where they get out of the bed in their nice new apartment, and the
Yeah,
first words he says to her is in his white voice.
yeah. It's kind of like just it's like a second. Like he doesn't even have a second thought to it. It just happens.
Yeah, it's
Now,
almost as if like his second life selling slave labor is becoming him.
like, and it's not like he doesn't know that's what's going on. Like Detroit even says to him, like, "You baby, you know they're selling slaves." He's like, "Yeah, I know, but gotta pay off this stuff, and
And
afterwards,
then
like
they
a man from the inside
yeah,
type."
and then they get into a fight about it. Yeah, Detroit just like is really upset that he's continuing to work for this organization that he knows is doing bad, and their characters break up over it.
Mhm.
And then comes her art show. Now
Yes,
this
this was your favorite scene,
this
right?
was a scene that made me a little uncomfortable.
What are you
Uh,
talking about? You don't like getting
all right, Chase, why don't you explain
water
this one?
balloons of sheep's blood thrown on you?
All right, you explain this one.
It's modern art, man.
Modern art.
Detroit holds a art gallery, and as part of that as part of that show, she is a little less clothed, and people are allowed to throw they're allowed to throw batteries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it both batteries and cell phones?
Yeah, she was going on of like, here are broken cell phones which require cobalt to function, and cobalt
Yeah, because
is
mined in like
yeah,
certain parts of Africa.
and the children are exploited for it.
Yeah, which also touches on another note of like capitalism going
Mm-hmm.
on in the world and exploitation of certain places' resources
And people.
and people.
Yeah, a
And
little
then
more
also,
social commentary.
she gets like water balloons filled with sheep's blood
Yeah,
tossed on her,
which
which
means
I'm mostly wondering where the hell she got all that sheep's blood.
yeah. So you got
Because
this less clothed lady just standing on a stage, people
getting pelted with sheep's blood.
and broken cell phones. And
It's art. It's modern art, Nando.
what is she reciting throughout this entire process?
What is she? What is she reciting, Nando? Can you
I
tell me?
I don't know. It was something very specific, but she didn't stop. And throughout this entire scene, Cassius shows up, and they've broken up at this point, and he tries to like talk with her, but then eventually he has to leave so that he can actually go to the party with Steve Lynn. Uh,
I
to
should note out that as the performance is going on, Detroit herself is also putting on a white voice.
yes, that's actually an important detail
It's Lily James who is doing the voice.
because throughout this whole movie she's criticizing him for becoming something he's not. And then when Cassius walks into this art gallery, she's talking in a white voice to these what appears to be rich art dealers or something.
So
And sorry, go.
she's also, like it's a sense of hypocrisy there,
Yeah,
and how she's complaining about Cassius using his white voice,
but then she
but
turns around and
she's
does it.
also using it to her advantage for
Hmm.
these things.
Yes, yes.
one note we haven't touched on is the guy played by Amari Hardwick, Mr. Beep. Just no name. We never find out his name
Oh yeah, uh, this
with
guy.
the eye patch.
This guy. So there's a character in this movie played by who again?
Amari Hardwick.
Amari Hardwick, and this character doesn't have a name. You know, even when he's listed on the cast of this movie, it says he's playing Mister, and then it's just a line
Well,
there.
I think it's almost as if like we're we're not high enough to get to hear his name.
Yeah.
He's above us in terms of
Hmm.
rankings and status.
And this guy, for like the majority of the movie, only speaks in a white voice, and his character is black.
Yeah. His white voice is done by Patton Oswalt. You know, it's very interesting hearing Remy the Rat say some of those things.
Yeah, and this is like Cassius meets this guy when he gets promoted to be a power caller, and you know, this guy is like going on about how, oh, you're gonna make so much money, you're gonna do so well, and then the only time he doesn't speak in a white voice is during the party with Steve Lynn or Lift.
Lift.
Lift. And he like, because Cassius is like, his head is bleeding and he's kind of almost passing out, and he leans down on one knee and he speaks with his regular voice, and he tells him to go meet Steve Lift, and that's the scene where he inhales the horse powder.
Horse powder.
That's what I'm gonna refer to it as.
It's gonna be my new nickname for you.
Horse powder.
I mean,
I think he does an amazing job in this movie.
I think everybody does a pretty
Yeah.
damn good job. I think the most amazing thing about this movie is its originality and its innovative script and its commentary on social issues
Yeah, this movie isn't
and
afraid to say things.
race issues. Oh no, it's trying to make a statement,
Yeah.
and it's too bad not enough people saw the statement it was trying to make.
And this was made in 2018. This is pretty relevant today.
I mean, only 2 years ago.
Yeah, only 2 years ago. But a lot happened in 2 years. So this movie is definitely trying to say something. Its originality is amazing. And this movie's not afraid to try new things. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I really hope Boots Riley makes another film. I don't know if he will. I remember reading some things about how he didn't really like the whole Hollywood process and how everything like goes down.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about that when I asked if there was going to be a sequel to this movie because of the end. I think
Yeah, I don't think this movie really needs a sequel.
I think we should actually get into the end.
Okay.
Alright, so the way this movie ends is, you know, he gets back together with Detroit after, you know, oh, wait, we forgot a huge major detail. Cassius Green's cell phone, when he walks into these horse people, his cell phone gets dropped and he takes a video.
No, he loses his cell phone in there.
Yeah, and the horse people grab his phone.
The horse people grab the phone
and take a video screaming for them to help them.
Well, yeah, they accidentally end up calling Detroit.
Yeah, and this recording has actual like video evidence of the horse people, and it has Steve Lift in it telling the horse people to shut up.
Yeah.
So
he's like, if you don't shut the fuck up, I'm gonna turn you into glue.
Yeah. And then Cassius, like, Detroit gets this message on her cell phone, and then Cassius like runs after, he like finds her, and then he's like, they're turning people into horse people.
So now he's trying to get this message out to, you know, like news sites, anybody that'll listen. But
And
we get this really interesting scene of him having to go on this game show
now this game,
where they where
for,
they beat the fuck out of him.
yeah, for a little context, in the movie it's shown through brief that this game show where people are literally, it's just a game show about people getting their asses beat, is the most,
Punch, kick,
yeah,
dumped in shit,
it's the most popular TV show in America.
which is all. It's pretty touching commentary on
Entertainment.
reality television
Yeah.
and what people are consuming for media. People would rather watch people getting beat the fuck up than maybe something like this movie.
Yeah. So he goes on this show, he gets his ass beat, he gets thrown into a pit of human shit, and then they finally play his clip. And at this point in the movie, I was like, oh, great, the protests are gonna, like, flare up even more because of this. But what actually happens is the world praises Worry Free and Steve Lift because they made such advancements into, like, genetic engineering.
What an innovator.
What an innovator. He's creating literal horse people. And so, of course, Cassius gets made fun of even more. And then eventually he meets up with Squeeze. And who's the other guy that he meets up with in the diner?
Oh, we haven't even talked about his friend Sal.
Yeah, his friend Sal.
I think that's Jermaine Fowler.
He's not very important though.
He's got some good lines.
He's got some good lines, but he's just thrown in there.
I mean, he's the guy that gets him the idea for the
Interview.
job at the call center.
So you got this friend, you got Sal, and you've got Squeeze, and they're both running the protest to try to form a union to get them better wages. And of course, Cassius comes to them. He's like, "Listen, I'm sorry I betrayed you. Let's protest."
Mm-hmm.
And so they go outside of the call center and they protest. And eventually they break through, they get into a fight with like the SWAT team in the morning. And eventually Cassius Green gets captured. Now Chase,
We get some pretty interesting imagery of him behind bars in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a dim light on his face, and then what's that noise? There's a fucking Equisapien
There's multiple
breaking me out.
Yeah.
And the Equisapiens come to the rescue and help out Cassius.
Yeah. They realize Cassius has the guy who like got the word out about them, and so when they're freed, they break Cassius out of the back of this truck. They mess up all the other SWAT officers, and then they're like, and then Cassius tries to act like all honorable. He's like, "Oh, it's an honor to meet you," and then it's just some guy from Brooklyn.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's like,
I'm from Brooklyn.
"Oh, horse person,
Yeah.
we thank you." Hey man, I'm from Oakland.
Yeah, I'm from Oakland or Brooklyn or wherever. And then, after that, a successful union gets formed, and Cassius now he moves back in with his uncle, but now he can actually pay his uncle like his rent because he has a wage now due to the union, which I think is a nice little bow tie.
And then just when we think it's all nice and lovely and Cassius and Detroit are gonna lay down, he starts growing a fucking snout.
Yeah, he grows a horse snout. And so it's like another reveal that he didn't really snort cocaine with Steve Lift. It was the horse powder. And so, Detroit freaks out, and then it cuts. Chase, you explain the ending.
Then we get a little scene of horse person Cassius and some other horse people showing up to Steve's house and being like, basically going to fuck him up.
Yeah.
And we don't see anything that happens. I can only imagine, hopefully. I think it probably imagines us that we're rooting for them to hopefully kill him.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we don't know what happens.
Yeah.
And it is I guess the only way I could describe this film is it's bonkers.
Yeah, this movie definitely is. You know, it's crazy. It's got some crazy ideas. Ideas that I probably would have never thought of. You know, the big twist is that the main, like, villain is turning people into horse people. I never saw that one coming.
Well, and it's all
It's,
symbolism for slave labor,
yeah,
obviously.
it's symbolism
And
for these people. They're basically treating their workers less than human,
which
which there
speaks for itself.
speaks for itself. Yeah,
It's commentary on like race and labor and
there's just so much.
capitalism.
Yeah, there's just so much social commentary in this movie. It's great.
But it doesn't do it in like a pretentious way,
Yeah, it doesn't do it in like, oh, look
It
at
doesn't like or sometimes I'll watch a movie and it's like it's very obviously trying to like spew ideas at you just for the sake of spewing
yeah,
ideas at you.
it's just trying to
Like
have like
not saying from anything specifically, um,
yeah.
but
But in this movie, it's more subtle.
I mean,
In some places,
I
it's
don't know if
not.
it's subtle,
I think in some
but
places it's pretty subtle, but it's not like shoved in your face. You can like make the connections yourself. That's the point.
well, I mean, I think it starts off pretty subtle, but by the time you're like,
Yeah,
really get into it and you're like, wait a minute, 43 is doing this and this, and then
I'm starting to see some connections here.
white voices. Oh, I see what's going on.
Yeah,
And I don't want to like compare this to like Get Out or anything, but like it's in like the same way Get Out used genre to also talk about social issues.
yeah, I agree. With it being a comedy, you can have things like the white voice, which is played for laughs, but it says a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
It's an interesting movie.
definitely. Well, Chase, would you like to get? I think it's time to give our closing thoughts and ratings.
Oh, I completely forgot about ratings. Let's see. Would you like me to start?
Yeah, you can start.
Okay. Overall, I think this is one of the most innovative films of recent memory and just original films. I think it really it talks about a lot of important things that need to be talked about, and more people should see this. Everyone in it does a great job. It's beautifully directed. It's just a fun. I don't know. Fun's not the right word, but it's an enjoyable film, really enjoyable film, and I almost guarantee if you watch it, you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. All right, Chase. What would you rate this movie?
I gotta give this film a solid 8.5 out of 10.
All right.
Maybe a 9.
As for my closing thoughts, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think that the main thing that, if you're listening to this, the main thing that you should take away is to, if you haven't already, go watch this movie.
I mean, even if you have seen it,
Even
go
if you
watch it again. Go watch it again. I don't know why you have
If-
gotten to here and haven't listened to it.
Yeah, having a second rewatch and just looking for like the small little details, like
I do think this is one of those films that gets better on a rewatch.
I guarantee you, Chase, if me and you went and watched this movie again and tried to look for smaller details, we would find smaller details that we had.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's stuff we didn't even touch on that's
Yeah.
in there to foreshadow certain aspects.
But I think this movie is very well directed, very well acted. The highest praise I can sing about this movie is that it's innovative and it has original ideas. And that's a thing you see in a lot of movies anymore. You know, this kind of movie doesn't happen every year or every 5 years. So, for this movie, I will be awarding this movie a 9 out of 10 for me.
Solid.
It's a very solid movie, and both me and Chase highly recommend it. Or Chase and I highly recommend it. Anyway,
Should we should I do some little like social media plugs for a second?
oh yeah, sure, dude.
Um, if you've gotten this far, might as well follow us on Instagram at C&C Commentaries. Um, that way you can just get up to date stuff on what we have planned. And if you enjoyed this, I guess you could like it, comment. We'd love to hear what you thought. Um, if you want to share it with a friend, go ahead. If you know someone that would like this kind of stuff, go for it. Share it with them. We'd appreciate that.
Yes. Okay. Alright, Chase, I think it's time for a little sneak peek onto our next movie.
Oh boy, I'm so excited. What could we be watching, Nando? Please give us a tease as to what we will be talking about next week.
So, next week, we'll be talking about a movie that is the story of a black police officer in basically an all-white town. And it goes on, it's the story of Ron Stallworth, a police officer that infiltrated the KKK. I am, of course, talking about a Black Klansman. Highly critically acclaimed movie. And I think that is great. And don't you think it's great, Chase?
I guess we'll have to see on the next
I
episode.
guess we'll have to see. Alright.
No, I think it's great. We'll talk about that on the next one.
We'll talk about it. Well, folks, if you've made it this far, Chase and I thank you very much. And hope you have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye.
Bye.